Mariners win 2-0. They improve to 61-52 on the season. They take the first of the 5-game homestand. They take the first in this 2-game series against the San Diego Padres. Very quick how it happened because there was not a lot in terms of scoring plays anyway. In the 5th inning, Cal Raleigh draws a bases-loaded walk. Kind of. It was on a pitch clock violation. It's worth pointing out that the pitch Kerr threw probably was going to get called a ball. It was borderline. Doesn't matter. Run scores 1-0 in the 5th. Dylan Moore triples home Tom Murphy to make it 2-0. And that was plenty. One was plenty because we'll get into it. An unreal effort tonight from Logan Gilbert. Some negatives. Eugenio Suarez really struggled. Really had a tough night at the plate. 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Not his best day whatsoever. Give credit to the San Diego pitching who did a nice job tonight. And then the only other negative here. I wonder what happens, and let's just get into it. Let's get into the biggest positive today because we could spend 20 minutes talking about it. Logan Gilbert had one of the best starts I've seen from a Seattle Mariner in 5 or 6 years. He was that good. And he gives up the one hit, and that one hit I think should have been an error. And I wonder if he gets a chance to pitch at least one more inning and see what happens if not for that. And I don't like that's how you manage the game. He threw an even 100 pitches. He had no hit stuff tonight with, one exception to play, and we definitely will talk about that. But you can't say enough good things about how good Logan Gilbert was tonight. I mean, he was dominant. His command was impeccable. His stuff, his slider tonight, oh my goodness gracious. As good as I've seen a Seattle Mariner pitch in a long time. And that is not darning with faint praise, folks. There have been some amazing Seattle Mariner pitching performances in the last couple of years. Amazing. But this performance from Gilbert, AKA Walter, you cannot say enough good things about it. And I think it was big too, because we can just get into it now. It looks like the Mariners are going to have Emerson Hancock make his MLB debut tomorrow. And the only bullpen arms he had to use were Brash and Munoz. Now, I'm not sure if either one's going to be available tomorrow, which is one negative. But you got everybody else available. Everybody else is available, especially when you had Monday off. And honestly, Munoz should be available. Through 17 pitches, looked great. Brash, gives up a hit and a walk. But I think I was really impressed with the composure he showed in getting that strikeout. Runners on first and third in the 8th inning. Brash gets Trent Grisham, who definitely has some swing and miss. Don't get me wrong. But that pitch, that slider, oh my, nobody's hitting that. Might have even been classified as a knuckle curve. Whatever it was. Filthy. Matt Brash's stuff is phenomenal. And then Munoz was great too. I'm not 100% sure that was strike 3 on Soto, who had a really tough night. 0 for 4 with 4 Ks. It was borderline. I didn't see the Emerald Queen Casino tracer, but it was borderline. He didn't look very happy, and Juan Soto has a pretty good approach. The strikes tonight, the balls and strikes tonight were not great. Doug Eddings, very inconsistent umpire. Give me those sweet, sweet robots. And give Gilbert credit for taking advantage of it, but his stuff was unreal. I wanted to talk about one thing. I was talking to somebody over text about this, my buddy Anders, who's the producer and border operator when we're doing Molly Watt Monday. He's got to throw more fastballs. Right now, before today, he was at 64% slider, 36% slider. And I do understand why he's throwing more sliders than fastballs. It's become his best pitch. But he throws so hard, and there is some movement to the pitch. It's not elite movement, but there is movement. According to Baseball Savant, he ranks in the 37th percentile in fastball spin. I mean, that's just a number, so you can't argue with it too much. But I do feel like there's more life to the pitch than that suggests. And he gets pretty good extension on it. I would like to see him be more 55-45. At least 60-40. I want hitters to be cognizant of that this dude can get the ball up to 99 miles per hour with regularity. That is what I would like to see. That's the thing I would like to see more of him. Mariners have their reasons for wanting guys to throw as many sliders as possible. It's one of the toughest pitches to square up, and they do a great job of teaching these guys to get a ton of sweep and a ton of depth on the pitch as well. But I would like to see Munoz throw his fastball more. Brash was great. Offensively, another great game from JP Crawford. More with that big triple for insurance. Julio Rodriguez. Let's talk about the play. Can't believe we're 5 minutes and 50 seconds into the video, and we have not talked about the play. And for those who missed it, the only really scary play here, actually, Julio made a couple of really good catches. He made a, not diving per se, but he made a running catch going forward, shows off that speed. But then Fernando Tatis Jr. smokes a baseball. Julio leaps up, and you're thinking, he leaps up, and you cannot tell what happened. You don't see the ball go over the fence, but you don't see the ball go over the fence a lot of times, right? And Julio does the ultimate troll, is probably not the right word, but for lack of a better term, let's call it troll move. And all of a sudden, he puts his hand up, and in that glove is that baseball. And he gives his little to the outfield. I mean, come on. Come on. On top of it being a fantastic catch and robbing one of the best young talents in baseball, it's just such showmanship and such understanding the moment. And it's so funny to me that people, and the numbers are what they are. He has struggled in late game situations because he's trying to do too much. But it's hard for me to take it too seriously because I saw what he did last year with some awfully clutch moments. And I also know that this guy gets it more than not just a young player. That's patronizing. It's not just for a young player, he gets it. He just gets it. He's going to have to work on doing letting the game come to him sometimes. That's understandable. But his situational awareness, especially once the play is over with stuff like that, and that doesn't necessarily lead to more wins or losses, but it's awesome. This is an entertaining game. This is what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to enjoy the wins, not like the losses so much, but you're supposed to be entertained, right? For 2.5 hours. I wish it was closer to 3. I'm alone in that. So be it. Julio makes this game entertaining. And on top of that, he's awfully freaking good too. Just fun right now. Team is so much fun right now. And dang it, I'm going to lift my thing up. I'm tired of looking at the bottom of that. We deserve it. We went through a lot. We've got through a lot of crap anyway, being Seattle Mariner fans, right? But we went through a lot of crap to begin this season. At just below the halfway point, this team was 38-42 and looked like it was going nowhere. You can't even compare it to last year, because last year this team was 29-39 and then just went berserk. No, it took until half a season for this team to start doing this. And for half a year, we saw either bad or we saw inconsistent at best. But outside of one series against the Detroit Tigers of all teams, since that, it's been phenomenal. There's no other way to put it. And good for these players. Good for Scott Service. Good for Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander for putting a team together that can do this as well. Fine. But I'm mostly giving just credit to these dang players, man, because they did not give up. I said over and over and over and over again that I refuse to give up on this team. And right now it's paying off. I did also say, I will admit it, that after the trade deadline, I was very pessimistic about this being a postseason team. I'm happy to be wrong. And I'm not guaranteed to be wrong yet. In fact, I'm not guaranteed to be right about not giving up on this team either. There's a lot of baseball to be played. But I keep saying control your own destiny. The Mariners, I don't care that they're 2 games back. They control their destiny. It is in their hands. They put it in their hands by playing so gosh dang well since the start of July. They did this. If they play to their potential over the last 49 games, it doesn't matter what Toronto does. It doesn't matter what Boston does. It doesn't matter what the Yankees do. If they play like they have played since the start of July, they are going to the postseason. And that's awesome. You can, if you want to lament that if they would have played better earlier in the year, we're talking about not only competing for a playoff spot, you're talking about competing for a division. Heck, you're talking about you're competing for the number 1 seed in the American League. And that should be the goal. It's not completely out of the question. They can still get there. It's hard. But you got a lot of games against Houston and Texas left. Minnesota is not going to be that number 1 seed. And Tampa Bay and Baltimore have shown signs of not so good at times. Tonight being a perfect example of that, as Houston wins on a go-ahead grand slam off King Felix. I like Felix Bautista. It just drives me nuts that they tried that. Oh, what a catch. And what an effort from Gilbert. Everything was working. Everything was working. And, you know, more does make, it's not called an error, but yes, it was. He does have that mistake, but he gets on twice and drives in a key insurance run. With how Gilbert was pitching, you know, probably doesn't matter, but you're more comfortable, right? It's a more comfortable situation, at least for me, being up 2 than to be up 1. I'm not talking about pitching to the score, aka Jack Morris, aka not a Hall of Famer, even though he is one. You're not doing that. But there's a little more comfort. There's a little more comfort. And to add that extra run, I think was big. I sure was a lot more confident when there was runners on first and third in the 8th inning. I'll tell you that much. Knowing that if one of those guys scores, that stinks, but doesn't really change anything. But of course, Brash made an absolutely sensational pitch. Awesome. This is awesome. And I'm excited to see how tomorrow goes. Tomorrow, you have Emerson Hancock all but assuredly making his MLB debut. Now, if you take a look at Hancock's numbers in the minors, they're not great. They're not abhorrent, but they're not great. It's been really good as of late. His last 10 starts, an ERA of 2.97, 57 to 12 strikeout to walk ratio in Double-A. But it's pretty good. And he's going to have to be good because Yu Darvish isn't having a Yu Darvish season. Yu Darvish can miss bats. Yu Darvish is still pretty darn solid. He's somebody that, you know, generally gets the job done. Was really good in his last start. 7 innings of 2-run baseball. He's a good start. Before that, he was 6 shutout innings against Texas. He's mostly been good. They're going to have to pitch well tomorrow, I think. Hope I'm wrong. I mean, I do and I don't. I want Hancock to pitch well, but it'd be nice if we, score a 10 spot. And it would be really nice to win a game by more than a couple of runs. I mean, this has been so fun, but it's also so stressful. All of these games have been so dang close. They have not won a game by more than 2 runs since July 31st. And that was misleading because it was a 6-2 game, but it was a very close game until the very last innings. And they haven't lost a game by more than 2 runs since July 18th. July 18th, and that's when things really felt bad. Right? That 10-3 loss to Minnesota. Woo was awful. A lot of you have asked me about the Woo injury. Do I think it's real? I don't know how to respond to that. Because if I say I think it's BS, I think that's really insensitive, isn't it? But the timing, to quote my good buddy Michael Scott, is nothing short of predominant. It's very odd for a guy who's probably at his innings limit or close to it. It's a little weird. And I'll say this, I actually do hope that it's something that they're fudging. Because that means he's healthy. And I don't want people to be hurt. But I don't know. I don't know. If I'm being completely honest, I don't know. But this is going to be interesting. It's worth pointing out that if they stick with the current rotation, and they don't have to, because they have an off day on Thursday, they could play around with some stuff and maybe skip a guy if they wanted to. But if it sticks, you're going to have Hancock go against San Diego tomorrow, and then at Kansas City. And then I think the next one would be against Houston. Curious to see what they do. It's obviously going to be at least partially determined by how he pitches, right? By the way, I immediately apologize for when I call Hancock Hitchcock, because as an old man, I remember Sterling Hitchcock quite well. Speaking of that, kind of old stuff, please hit like and subscribe on this video, but then go into my greatest hits. I'll put a link in the description, and check out my latest video on the 5 greatest Seattle Mariner catchers of all time. Because if you watch that video to the very end, and please don't just skip forward, watch that video to the very end, you will see how you can win this guy right here. Edgar Martinez autograph card /50. Let's see at the back if anyone's curious. It's from Topps Definitive, which I believe the last time I looked, Topps Definitive boxes go for around $1,500 to $2,000. Now, that's not a $1,500 to $2,000 card. That's probably not even. There's 10 cards in it. That's probably not a $200 card either. But it's Edgar frickin' Martinez. You should want that. I mean, all you have to do is watch the video to the end to see how you can win that. And yeah, that was. Some of you know I was not planning on doing the video tonight. I was planning on skipping till the morning because I was just gonna hang out with family and stuff like that. But Gilbert was so good tonight, I had to record. I truly can't remember the last time somebody impressed me that much as a starter. And that is such high praise considering how many gosh dang good starting pitching performances we've gotten from the Seattle Mariners over the last few years. I think the Mariners' top 3 is as good, if not better, than anyone in baseball. And the best part is that is not changing anytime soon. I don't think. Logan Gilbert could get traded, I guess. But there's a lot of young talent behind it, too, if you wanted to make a move like that. But right now, I'll take the Mariners' big 3 over anybody. Or at least even with anybody. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Follow me on that website at Crawford_MILB. Follow me on Blue Sky at Crawford Chris V, Sports Sometimes Podcast, and the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Walter cooked.